This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel's continuing to bomb Syria a week after Syria's longtime ruler, Bashar al-Assad, was ousted from power. Last night, Israel dropped what's been described as an earthquake bomb on Syrian military and air defense sites in the coastal Tartus region. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights described Israel's bombing as the heaviest strikes in the area in more than a decade. According to the group, Israeli forces have launched over 800 strikes on Syria over the past week. The Israeli government's also approved a plan to expand illegal settlements in the occupied Golan Heights. This comes days after Israel invaded Syrian territory to seize more of the Golan Heights. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has confirmed the Biden administration's been in direct contact with Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the Islamist Syrian armed group that led the surprise offensive that toppled Assad. We'll have more on Syria after headlines. Israel's unrelenting slaughter of Palestinians in Gaza continues. Early this morning, a strike on the Nuseirat camp killed Palestinian grandfather Khaled Naban, whose story was shared with millions around the world last November after Israel murdered his grandchildren, including 3-year-old Reem, whom Nabhan was filmed cradling while repeating the words, "the soul of my soul." Separately, Israel bombed yet another UN-run school without warning, killing at least 20 people in the Khan Yunis shelter. At least 60 Palestinians have been killed over the past day of attacks, bringing the official death toll to more than 45,000 Palestinians, though the true toll is certainly much higher. At least 3 journalists have been killed in weekend attacks, including Al Jazeera cameraman Ahmed Alou, as well as Mohammed Balusha, who last November was the first to report about the intensive care babies who died after Israeli soldiers forcibly evacuated the Al-Nasser hospital. This is a clip from that reporting for Al-Mashhad.
This is the scene in the ICU of Al-Nasser Children's Hospital. It was under siege by the Israeli army. They didn't allow these babies to evacuate and prevented anyone from rescuing them from the hospital. Until now, these bodies are still there alongside other bodies of citizens laying in the streets while no party is able to pick them up and bury them with dignity.
Israel's unlawful targeting of Gaza's hospitals continues more than a year later. In the north, Kamal Adwan Hospital remains under siege and attacked by Israeli forces. Israel last week also ordered an area which includes the Patients' Friends Benevolent Society Hospital to evacuate. The hospital is the only neonatal intensive care unit in North Gaza to receive premature babies. Israeli forces have also destroyed the Abu Shbak Health Center in Jabalia. In the occupied West Bank, Palestinian Authority police forces have continued raids in the Jenin refugee camp, killing a senior leader of the resistance group Jenin Brigade Saturday. The killing of Yazid Jayasa came amidst an escalating crackdown by Palestinian Authority forces across the West Bank, targeting groups resisting Israel's occupation. Gunshots and explosions were heard across Jenin. Many residents have taken to the streets in protest of the raids. UNRWA, the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees, has suspended its services in Jenin due to the violence. Israeli soldiers have also continued near-daily attacks in the West Bank, including in Hebron, where Israeli forces shot and killed a disabled 23-year-old man during a raid Friday. Mohammed Ahmed Masalma, who had learning difficulties, was shot as Israeli soldiers arrested his cousin inside a paint shop. In the Republic of Georgia, protests continue in the capital, Tbilisi, as demonstrators gathered outside Parliament over the weekend after the ruling Georgian Dream Party appointed far-right former soccer player Mikhail Kavalashvili as president. But Georgia's president, Salome Zarabishvili, who backs joining the European Union, has said she won't step down until new parliamentary elections are held following allegations of fraud against the governing Georgian Dream Party, which claimed victory in October. Zarabishvili's term ends today. Kavalashvili was the only candidate on the presidential ballot and easily won the bid, as Georgian Dream controls the 300-seat electoral body that replaced direct presidential elections in 2017. On the archipelago of Mayotte, hundreds, if not thousands, of people are feared dead after the islands were devastated by tropical cyclone Chido, the worst cyclone to hit the French territory in at least 90 years. Residents have described the widespread destruction as apocalyptic as the storm flattened entire neighborhoods, destroyed hospitals and schools, and knocked out electrical grids, leaving Mayotte in the dark for over 36 hours. The authorities warn residents have already started to die of thirst and hunger while emergency workers are scrambling to search for survivors. Mayotte is one of the poorest French territories, with many residents living in makeshift settlements. The cyclone made landfall Sunday in Mozambique, where at least 3 people were killed. In Sudan, at least 9 people were killed Friday after a drone strike on the main hospital in North Darfur's Al-Fasher city. At least 20 others were injured in the attack, which Sudanese authorities blamed on paramilitary rapid support forces. South Korea's parliament impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol over his attempt to declare martial law. The final vote, 204 to 85. Yeol's presidential powers have been suspended. His future now rests in the hands of South Korea's constitutional court, which will decide whether Yoon should be removed from office. The court will hold its first public hearing on December 27th. Opposition leader Lee Jae-myung called for Yoon to be removed from office as soon as possible.
We are restraining. However, rather than celebrating the victory ourselves and being scattered, shouldn't we continue to fight together to ensure that there is a swift and serious accountability to be held, and ensure the removal of Yoon Suk-yeol as soon as possible?
South Korea's Prime Minister Han Duck-soo will serve as interim leader until the court issues its ruling on Yoon. Meanwhile, the head of Yoon's ruling People Power Party, Han Dong-hoon, has resigned days after voting to impeach Yoon. We'll go to South Korea later in the broadcast. Here in the United States, President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance attended the Army-Navy football game Saturday, along with some of Trump's cabinet picks, including embattled Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's nominee to become Director of National Intelligence, and Kash Patel, Trump's pick to head the FBI. Vance also invited Daniel Penny to the game, the former U.S. Marine who was acquitted last week by a New York jury of killing the street performer Jordan Neely on a subway train, putting him in a chokehold. In other transition news, 3 prominent tech billionaires, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, and Sam Altman of OpenAI, have reportedly agreed to their companies donating $1 million each to Trump's inaugural fund. Zuckerberg, who once banned Trump from Facebook, recently dined with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. ABC News, which is owned by Disney, has agreed to donate $15 million to Trump's presidential library to settle a defamation lawsuit filed by the president-elect. Trump sued the network after ABC anchor George Stephanopoulos said Trump was found liable for rape in a 2023 civil case in Manhattan brought by writer E. Jean Carroll. ABC has been widely criticized for agreeing to settle instead of going to court to fight what many believe to be a winnable case. The Democratic elections attorney, Mark Elias, responded to the settlement by writing, "Knee-bent, ring-kissed, another legacy news outlet chooses obedience," unquote. The New York Times is reporting Trump and his allies are threatening to file more defamation lawsuits in an attempt to crack down on unfavorable media coverage. And President Biden has come under fierce condemnation as the names of the 1,500 people he granted clemency to last Thursday were revealed. They include former Pennsylvania Judge Michael Conahan, who was sentenced in 2011 to 17.5 years for accepting nearly $3 million in kickbacks for sending 2,300 children, some as young as 8 years old, to for-profit prisons on false charges. Another person receiving clemency is Mira Sachdeva, a Mississippi doctor who gave her patients diluted chemo drugs as part of a massive Medicare fraud. Rita Crundwell, a former comptroller and treasurer in Illinois, embezzled more than $53 million from the city of Dixon. She used the money to breed racing horses. Biden's act of mass clemency came in the wake of his presidential pardon for his son Hunter. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez for the first time in years since the pandemic began, sitting next to me here in New York. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our viewers and listeners across the country and around the world. It's great to be back temporarily in my hometown of New York.
Democracy Now! Is funded by viewers like you. Please give today at democracynow.org/give.